February Spokane Homeless Coalition. My name is Robert, and I have some music in the background, which Barry is getting. Thank you, everyone, for making it in the snowy weather. Holy cow, it's February. But yes, February, the month of Valentine's, the month of love. If you remember last year, I gave a little spiel about that. But if this is your first time at the Coalition, welcome. Thanks for taking an hour out of your day to come and spend with us to get some updates and key agenda items that we have listed. If you are not a part of the Homeless Coalition listserv, please reach out to Barry Barfield. It's a great way to communicate, collaborate, give updates about your organization, and they can add you to that. It is a little bit, it's a lot of people. It's like 1,300 folks on that email chain. So just be sure when you reply to the individual, or if you think it's relevant information for everyone to be aware of in your response, then click the reply all. But for the most part, we do sometimes get email burden, and please just click the reply singular version. So again, thanks again for taking the time to be here. My name is Robert. We meet here the first Thursday of each month. I'm one of the leadership members, along with Barry, Rob Bryson, Julie Garcia, and Christy Coleman. And if you are interested in being in leadership, please reach out to myself or Barry in serving in some capacity with us. Like right now, we are trying to potentially launch a new website for the coalition, so that will be fun, but also needing some support in managing that would be awesome, just to spread out the time. So, before we jump into the agenda, I like to start off each coalition with a reflection. I work at Providence Community Clinic there on the corner of 2nd and Brown, and part of our tradition within Providence is to start off each meeting with a reflection, set the tone. But we reflect on Providence's mission, which is to be an expression of God's healing love, witness to the ministry of Jesus, steadfast in serving all, especially those who are poor and vulnerable. And we try our best at Providence Community Clinic to be that mission in action. And today's reflection is related to trades. I don't know if any of you are NBA fans, and this is please feel free to tune out, but I'm very excited for the deadline, and each trade season has a deadline. But I want us to focus on this trade, which is awesome. My favorite player is Luka Doncic, and he is going to my favorite basketball team, which is the Los Angeles Lakers. And it was a very exciting past couple of days with this trade going on. There's usually different transactions that go back and forth. My son is actually, his name is Luka as well. So Luka gets to watch Luka play basketball growing up now. So it's very, very exciting. But what does that have to do with anything related to homelessness or related to Providence's mission? Well, the guy mentioned in Providence's mission, the main story behind this very large book, which is, you can consider basic instructions before leaving Earth, the Bible, is something that points to this significant trade that happens. This significant trade of this man mentioned in Providence's mission trades himself for us. And the only expectation is to receive what's called grace, is to have faith in this person who trades himself, or another word for trade is sacrifice. And there are a lot of mini trades that happen within this storybook, but this is the major big trade that happens, the trade to end all trades. And if you are interested in learning more about this trade, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions about it. I know my reflections can get here and there and everywhere, but I really do appreciate the time and your ear and patience. You know, if you don't share the same, you know, belief and spiritual support, you know, I definitely appreciate you at least being here and sitting through it. So, again, thank you for being here. And with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into our agenda. So I'll invite our first speakers or discussion panelists, Nicolette and Council President Betsy Wilkerson. Come on up. You can pick a seat. You can sit over here or right here. Yes. Let's make this nice and close and personal. So Betsy, you have a mic on your left there. Nicolette, you have one on your right. But first, before I totally forgot, I totally spaced this. Can we please give a round of applause for those who participated, volunteered in our last Homeless Connect. I know we have some of our leadership members. I won't make you guys stand, but they're sitting over there. Some of our a lot of effort was placed into it. And it was huge, and they'll talk about that here in a little bit. So thank you again. So, Nicolette, let's start with you. Council President Wilkerson.
I'm used to going first.
Let's start with you. And you can take that out because you got to have it real close to the voice box there. But can you give us an update from the City Council's perspective or any updates related to homelessness?
Okay, first of all, Robert, with that whole trade thing, yeah, the team he left was the city, they were kind of mad, right? So let's not forget that part. So we know there's agreement and disagreement in everything, but thank you, Robert. But I have to follow that. There's opportunity on both sides. So the team he left and the team he's going to. So thank you, Robert, for that reflection. All right. I just want to start and really thank you to all the providers in this room. And let me say it again. This is truly a heartfelt thank you to all of you who do this work every single day, and how overwhelming it is, and how exhausting it is, and how you wake up in the morning excited and you go to bed pissed. I can only be speaking for myself right now. But I just want to say thank you, because I know everyone in this room is juggling a lot of glass balls, and they're all very fragile. And those are people that we're trying to impact every day in the city of Spokane and in Spokane County. So I gotta do my own little reflection, because I've been kind of overwhelmed lately. And I don't know about y'all, I've been feeling some kind of way with everything that's going on, whether it's at the federal level, the state level, or the city level. It's like bam, 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 bam. It's like, can I catch my breath just to even process what you're trying to tell me right now, and how that impacts my organization? How does that impact the people that we are trying to implement? So y'all all heard this. We in America are more alike than different. Who's heard that phrase? Then why? Oh, I was getting ready to curse. I'm sorry. I'll be prepared. Then why do we have all this toxic polarization going on? If we're more alike than different, what's with all this toxicity? And why can't we get past that? Because we all know we'll go further together in this work, which is an absolute heavy lift. So that's my cathartic for this morning. Let me tell you what's going on in the city. A lot has been happening, and many of you know exactly what's been going on, especially in the world of homelessness and unhoused people. We just passed some bills on Monday about the impact area, fentanyl, drugs. We've had data that's come out, and Julie's not here, but thank you. It's more a drug problem than a homeless or unhoused problem, so let's acknowledge that going forward. I have to say, at the Homeless Connect, a woman came up to the city table which kudos to the city for the first time we've actually tabled, and I'm glad that we did. And she talked about how she was homeless, she went through the way out shelter, she got her life together, and now she's a peer mentor. I have always believed, not everybody, but most folks, if they are planted in fertile ground, they can grow. Now, others may not believe that, but for the majority, if they're planted in fertile ground, they will grow. And I say that to you as a provider who in my real life, where I make a difference every single day, I do residential housing for people who are mentally ill and developmentally delayed. I have seen when you invest in people, you can get a return on that investment. So that was such a reaffirming moment for me as a council member as to why we do what we do. And you all might not think we're doing a lot, but I tell you, a lot of crazy stuff happens on the 7th floor. So at my group home for the mentally ill, when I start my day there, I said, listen y'all, I'm getting ready to go to a crazy house. All y'all know y'all have a diagnosis here and y'all on medication. So we're good at this house, but this other house up there, that's a crazy house. And all kind of behaviors are going on down there. And thank y'all for laughing because this work is so heavy. If I don't laugh, I honestly got there some days I would cry. And I have resources to support me. And I would be crying doing this work sometime because, again, it's just so overwhelming. So there are lots of laws on the books, how we go forward. 2 years ago when I was a council member, I sat in this very chair and started talking about scatter site models. Who's ever back there then? And look at where we've come. Is everything perfect? No. But are we trying to move the needle? And we know the definition of insanity because we've worked with a population that's been diagnosed with some medication. I'm a big fan of medication because I can't get, y'all think I'm joking. No, I'm serious. I'm a big fan of medication. So again, this is just my little love letter to you all this morning. I'm gonna leave myself open for questions of what else is going on. But I just want to reaffirm you, reaffirm the work that you're doing, reaffirm that there is somebody on, well, there's several people absolutely on city council who understands what you do every day and who live it and you see it. So yes, so I'm just telling you, keep the faith. People say these are unusual times. Now I have to call BS on that. If you're old enough, we've been through difficult times before. Anybody here old enough who's been through difficult times before? Yeah, there may be a little bit more nuance to these difficult times, but we've been through them. We've been without money in government and social services. I remember 2008 as a state provider, they rolled back my compensation 5%. It took me 7 years to get it back, and that was a struggle. We're here again. They made so many laws on us that I felt I was weighted down and being hit by a phone book because regulations kept changing so rapidly. It's like, who is making up all this stuff? Obviously, it's not frontline people who are delivering services, y'all. It sounds good on paper, but let's talk about implementation here and the reality of what we do. So anyway, again, thank you. Nicolette probably has some more details, and I appreciate her. She is a real asset to this community. I'm sure everyone in this room who worked with her knows that. And so before I give the mic up, so we give Nicolette a round of applause.
Yeah. Thank you, Nicolette. And then, yeah, can you give us a kind of an update on the roundtable discussions and what's a phone book? Totally joking.
Isn't she amazing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel so inspired, and heard. And yeah, so, council did this great sort of in-depth, robust stakeholder engagement throughout last year with all these different roundtables to discuss different parts of the Spokane Municipal Code as it with respect to homelessness. And we've gathered all this feedback from different stakeholders about things from unlawful camping, sit live pedestrian interference, activation criteria for inclement weather centers. And now council members, it's now upon them to get together and draft up changes to the code in virtue of some of the stakeholder feedback that we've gotten. We actually have a meeting today with a few council members to look at what those drafts are going to look like for some of those code changes. And just like anything else, we also have to deal with stuff that's happening at the state. So, we've been talking about updating the code with respect to shelter siting, and there's a House bill right now at the state that would impact whether or not, what we think that we wanted to make changes about at the local level will be that way or a different way. And similarly, there's another House Bill 1380 about sit-and lie laws being objectively reasonable. And that will impact how, council can or cannot change certain codes at the local level. And so juggling all these different pieces, like Council President said, becomes the sort of task of taking all of this stakeholder feedback. And some of it we can, edit into the code and implement, and we have a lot of these constraints where we maybe can't. One of the things that we started out all of the roundtables out with was a Venn diagram that really put into perspective the sort of sweet spot of like where we're trying to aim, because we've got resource capacity issues, we've got community demands, we've got legal requirements, and we're trying to make effective policy. And sometimes it's hard to find that sweet spot to balance all of those pieces, but truly that is the sort of difficult work that we're now engaged in. And I won't speak for Council President, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these code changes get drafted up and come before Council around March-ish. Yeah.
So is that when we will see basically the outcomes of those roundtable discussions?
Yeah, and on Monday, the report should be going out. My plan is to be able to say during my update at the Urban Experience Committee, here's the report. Go forward with it, and the report will have very comprehensive, all of the survey questions that we asked stakeholders, all of the responses, a lot of the research we did, and I couldn't have done it without Jackson, a lot of climate research that we did for the activation criteria. All of that should be available on Monday, and then I can send a link out to the Homeless Coalition so you guys can really dig in. It's a very long document, but it should be really a good way to look at how that stakeholder engagement went.
And as far as the information that you received from the stakeholder engagement, if you could list top 2 priorities that came from that information back from the stakeholders, what do you think is kind of the repetitive thing that sticks out to you the most? Top 2.
I would say changing the temperature to indices to that wind chill, the feels like temperature, to sort of match what people are experiencing out on the street. Be 32 degrees and feel like 10. And I think that matters. And I think that we have broad support from the community on changing it from temperature to indices. I think that probably was a big piece. And then the second piece, really. There's a lot of people upset that we're going to try to change Prop 1, and we're not going to. We can't change Prop 1. We aren't changing Prop 1. Prop 1 will not be changed. And I think that what was interesting is that a lot of the stakeholder feedback and a lot of the conversations I have with council members make it look like we might not make any changes to the unauthorized camping section of the code at all. And that was a surprise to me, but probably one of the other big salient pieces.
Robert, I'll have to say, along with those things people that pointed out, I think really the biggest outcome was there were people who were on opposite sides of these issues at the same table and had never had a civil conversation. Many on both sides were keyboard warriors. Y'all have probably experienced that. They just hit the send button with no consequences and don't show their faces. So I think that was the best, and I just have to give this plug to this council. We have had the most community engagement under this council than we've ever had in the city of Spokane, where we have actually brought people together face to face and have these conversations. And that's what it's going to take, and that's what I mean when we'll go further together than we will go singly. So I think that's critical.
Real quick, how do you foster buy-in amongst your peers on the city council related to those outcomes? Are you guys on the same page as far as some of the initiatives that have come from the feedback?
Chief Hall can cover his ears right now. But I felt I had to hit a couple upside the head. No.
With a phone book?
I have a gavel that I get. Honestly, the buy-in is not always an agreement, but it's really the understanding, and those are like one-to-one conversations. So I will go to coffee with Councilmember Cathcart and have a phone call. A lot of times we agree on a lot of things, but a lot of things we are like the Grand Canyon. But at the end of the day, what always comes back to it, we both want the best thing for the city of Spokane. And that's the point we start at. Okay, we want the best outcome. Sometimes you have to back into that and then be willing to compromise for the good of all.
And lastly, one of the questions that have been circulating is any updates related to 1590, and as far as what that turns out. And Nicolette, I know you've done a lot of work with 1590 funding and being a part of the Housing Action Subcommittee. Is there any updates as far as accessibility to that funding or potentially increasing that?
I think that's a really excellent question. I think the most positive thing I've heard is that we have been hearing talks on both sides about what it would look like to bond 1590, which would be a really good way to make it, those dollars go a lot further. You can only bond for capital pieces, but still it could make a much larger impact and allow us to have this opportunity to have a much larger idea of like what we could do with a lot of those dollars. In terms of what that next RFP looks like, I think that Ariel and I were talking about this the other day, and some of these decisions are going to be made by our bosses and not us, obviously. But we do see the value in making sure that whatever this RFP and the next RFP does look like, it should really match what our community can actually deliver and actually needs. And so I think that when we go about this next process, it should be a lot more thoughtful so that we can capture some of these projects that are desperately needed in a bigger picture way. I don't know if you
And I was gonna just echo that. It's like, we can bond this money, but do we have the ability to spend it when we have all that? And really is growing our base of people who provide the services and who can build these capitals and go from that. And last thing I'll say is, Councilmember Cathcart and I were the only two council members still around who voted for 1590. As you remember, that was a councilmanic tax. And we were tarred and feathered for that. But look at how it's contributed to our community. And really, it's been 3 years, going to year 4, and really, we're still working through the processes. We did some things, and maybe we didn't do it quite right, but we want to get it done. So I think there'll be some changes going forward.
And just for those of you who may not know what 1590 is, or is interchange heart funds, or was it?
No.
Okay, 1590. Nicolette, can you give kind of like a 2-sentence kind of explanation on what that is?
Yeah, so 1590 is basically it's a portion of our sales tax back that we can use to build affordable housing and deliver housing-related supportive services. And so as long as it's for folks that are 60% or below AMI and that also satisfy a population requirement of either experiencing homelessness, at risk of homelessness, disabled, veteran, I know I'm missing one, senior citizen. And so those funds are really supposed to target those demographics. And again, they can be used for building affordable housing, acquiring land for the purposes of affordable housing, housing-related supportive services, even an allowable use that has been used for the inclement weather surging recently. Also, there's this behavioral health piece that can be done, both for building capital facilities for behavioral health facilities and those supportive services that goes along with those. And so we can really be very clever about how we use a lot of these funds. And it recruits, I want to say about $7 million a year, and then it goes for 20 years before it sunsets. And we're, like Council President said, about year 4 into that. And the Haifumi Inn is an example of a project that has used 1590, and a few others worked through. Yeah, someone back to that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so now we'll give out just a brief time for some Q&A from folks. Does anyone have any questions for Council President or for Nicolette? And make sure it's not about a phone book. We're still trying to figure that one out.
I'll just tell you real quick, the phone book or you got hit by it. But the question is, do we know how much money we'll get in 1590 funds this year?
We do not, John, because it's a sales tax. So that's 1/10 of 1% on when you buy your groceries. So before this went into effect, your sales tax was 8.9%. When we did the 1/10, it went to 9%. So it will fluctuate with the economy. We don't know, but it has averaged since it started around $7 million a year.
The more you spend, the higher that number will be.
Question?
In the
Thank
city.
you. My name is Julie Watson. I'm an affordable housing developer, and I want to commend the city for all the hard work they did getting 1590 out. I know that doing it in that quick way that you guys turned it around last year resulted in tons of positive housing, and I'm really grateful for that. One of the things that we did request also with this week was to provide some consistency in releasing it. And I'm wondering when, I'm working on an affordable housing community right now for domestic violence survivors, and 1590 will be a huge part of that. It'll fill that gap that we need to make it happen, but we have to plan. And so I'm wondering if you guys know when 1590 will be released.
I will have to tell you, as council president, and most of you know this in the room, we legislate and we budget. Once those processes are in place, it goes over to the administration, and we take a step back because then we have to vote on many of those processes. So that would be an administration question. Do you have any more?
No, I mean, I hope sooner rather than later,
Yes.
and I do know there's a desire to try to follow the code this year, is what I've heard, but like the president said, it's kind of out of our hands to a certain extent. But we can still advocate for it, so.
One last question. Anyone? Going once, going twice, up. Okay.
You mentioned bonding 1590. Could you explain to us exactly what that means?
So in just layman's terms, because I've never had enough of my own personal money to bond, we can borrow in the future against this money, and with the resources that come in, we can pay it back over a period of time. So we talked about we could get $30 million if we bonded, and maybe that bond payment is, I don't know, $3.5 million a year to pay back. So it's a loan. It's kind of form of a loan. So we'll see how that happens.
Thank you guys so much for your time, for coming and making yourself accessible to our coalition members. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Council President. And we have one quick announcement, real quick, regarding a bus. And you ready? We can do it later. Okay, come on up. So just a real quick announcement before we jump into the Empire Health Scattered Site discussion and how that's going. So yes.
Good morning, y'all. I'm Dula Reggie-Hunter, and I work for Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, and I'm their statewide organizer for Resident Action Project, and I'm going to introduce you to my fellow community organizer.
Good morning, Jeff DeBray, the Eastern Washington Director with Fuse, the political advocacy.
So I'm here to talk about our Housing and Homeless Advocacy Day, and how many of y'all know about that? And I'm gonna be quick. I'm trying. Okay, so it's one of the biggest annual lobby day at the Capitol every year. Last year we had about 500 folks, and I know sometimes one over there can be an issue from over here, but I'm excited to announce that we have 2 charter buses, thanks to Empire Health Foundation, to get 100 people over to Olympia to talk to their elected officials. So if you've never been there, and so some of the things we're going to be doing over there to talk to our elected official about are.
Yeah, so the biggest one is the rent stabilization bill. This might sound familiar to folks from years past, but this would put an annual cap on rental increases at 7% statewide. We know speaking to your room, there's a housing and rental crisis. We hope that getting this out of the House and the Senate in Washington will provide much needed relief to families. Right now, this bill is scheduled for a vote in the House Appropriations Committee, which is basically the Budget Committee. And after that, it'll move over to the Senate later in the spring. So we're gonna continue putting pressure on in Spokane to make that happen.
We also have some budget tasks that impact the work that y'all do, and we wanna make sure there's capital funding for affordable homes. We wanna prevent cuts to homeless services that we all do by investing $253 million in the operating budget. And we also wanna protect the rights of people experiencing homelessness, right? So they need to hear from us over here in Eastern Washington. And the plan is to have 2 buses. We'll leave at 5:30 in the morning. It's Friday, March 14th, so you can make it a 3-day weekend over on what you guys call the coast. Right? And so I'm from Seattle, born and raised. But I live here in Spokane, right? So you wanna come and you wanna share with your elected officials what y'all need in your community, and let's make that happen, because you guys are doing wonderful work and we wanna keep doing that. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Barbara. Come on up. Welcome back to the coalition. And there's a microphone there for you. Just make sure you keep it close so folks can hear you. And you can take it out of the stand if you need to. But first, introduce I think Zeke maybe have introduced, but introduce yourself, who you work for, and today's topic of discussion is scattered site sheltering.
Hello, my name is Barbara Bowman.
And you use that, like I said, you can use this one. This one's better. Yeah. Just keep it close up there.
My name is Barbara Bowman, and I just started at Empire Health Foundation. I moved back to the Eastern Washington area after many years working in homelessness and housing in LA, actually Pasadena, California. And my family's up here, so I moved up here to be close to them and continue to work up here in Spokane. And my title is Director of Spokane Community Homeless Initiative. I've met a number of you in the room at different events, time zone meetings, through the work, and for those I haven't met, I hope to get to know you in the future.
Yes, thank you. And can you give us an update on how your role as far as the scattered site, and just give us an update on how that initiative has been rolling out?
Yes, so I will be rolling out, helping stand up the Housing Navigation Center model and rolling out the scattered sites. So I like to think of it like an incubator hub, helping support agencies stand up shelters throughout the city in different locations. The city streamlined a process for the permitting to allow for that in different spaces like churches. So right now, there's currently 178 beds available at 6 sites. There were existing sites in the fall, including at the Housing Navigation Center, there's 30 beds there. And then we just opened in January with Robert here, partnering and Jules Helping Hands, the Healing Hearts Medical Respite Facility at Westminster Church for medically fragile persons. And it's referral only for those needing medical care assistance when they discharge from the hospital. And so that's up and running, and there's 30 beds there. And then the other site is with Family Promise, and we were able to expand for 15 more families to be housed through that program at their site. And then in this coming month, we're going to open up with Compassion Addiction Treatment CAT 20 to 25 more beds at their new facility, which was the former Daybreak of Spokane facility. So we'll be opening up a shelter there, and then as well, we're opening up a DV, a shelter for DV, women and families in the area as well, in a former church building that Family Promise used to have families there as well. And so the idea is to get these up and running, facilitate, support them in the process, and get more beds. And so hopefully through this, through the rollout of those sites, we'll take it up to 2025. It will take us up to, oh gosh. 204 beds, thank you. And then, or 205, yeah. And then we're going to have 30 more beds coming online for women only, at Knox Presbyterian Church in a partnership with them. And so that'll add more there and take us up to about 235 beds. And so the idea is that it's more tailored, referral based, to add and supplement, complement the existing shelter system out there, and then just add more, and then help facilitate connect. And the navigation center over here is a hub and spoke model that is intended to be able to connect people that go there, connect them to this, the spots, the beds at all of the different shelters throughout the system, including those in the existing shelter system, inclement weather beds, as well as the hope is to open up facilitation of linkages to treatment beds, mental health, longer term care, but just help facilitate that, and then ultimately be able to connect people to what truly ends homelessness, which is getting people a house, permanently house. And so that is the goal.
Nice. And with all of these different scattered sites, the navigation center, potentially playing a key role in that, what is, as far as accessibility, how do folks, frontline workers, those who are going through lived experience currently, how do they access knowing where these locations are, how to refer? Is this are all these different locations on Shelter Me Spokane? And if so, is there information available on each location about the referral process?
So these are being put into Shelter Me Spokane. I don't believe the Westminster site is, because that's referral based through Providence Community Clinic. So they have to go through there. But the rest of the beds are in Shelter Me Spokane. People are supposed to go through the navigation center, as far as I'm aware, and get on the wait list through there, and then they're going to be connected to the open beds at all the different sites.
So for everyone out here, are we instructed to send folks to the navigation center for that deployment, is what I'm hearing?
Right, yes.
Awesome. Okay, now we're going to answer a few questions. I'm going to leave the stage for a minute. Question up here, and have one back here too.
So on the website, is that where the referral is? Is it just printed out and send it, or is that at the navigation center?
At the navigation center. You can also, on Shelter Me Spokane, contact those sites themselves and get information on how to get connected as well on Shelter Me.
In the navigation center, we're talking about the Revive at 527 South County.
At Cannon, yeah, the
Okay.
Cannon Street,
I
yeah.
actually called them on Monday with a client, and they said that you have to get connected to one of their case managers in order to get it done.
And
So you can't just show up with them.
did they get you connected to one of their case managers?
Well,
at
they
that time?
scheduled my client an appointment time 2 days later,
Okay.
and that's a pretty big barrier from my client, and turns out this person doesn't need it right now anyways, but it's not as simple as, I guess, you need it soon, but maybe we're trying to figure that out, but
It's still, it's
not a-
helpful information for
Yeah.
the community, yeah. So.
and I think it was specifically a housing case manager, which this person already has a house case manager somewhere else, so they would need a shelter while they're waiting for their, anyways.
So I do know Revive, we had a meeting 2 days ago, and Revive did say they're doing assessments 2 to 4 to get them enrolled with a case manager through the Housing Navigation Center, that would partner with existing case managers to work together as a team with a person. And so that's what they're doing is the 2 to 4 p.m. assessments. So this is helpful information.
Last question.
Hi, I was just wondering if there was any talk about making safe parking lots. I have so many clients that are working in their cars, and the stress of having to move them daily, or the stress of getting it taken, we need them really badly.
Yeah, I understand, yes. I'm still new, so I'm still getting to know the history of safe parking and the attempts to bring that about to date and the barriers, and then learning how could we bring that on. And so that is my question. Coming from LA, there were safe parking, tiny homes, all of these things. So just understanding, I know a lot of people have had the ideas, known about this, trying to make this happen, so see why it didn't happen before and see how to make it happen in the future with the partners out there.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I imagine you'll be around after the meeting if anyone has any questions for her. And again, allowing grace for this new role and position as you welcome to Spokane. Here's what's happening here. Awesome, thank you, Barbara. Okay, let's get our folks up here to maybe give us some updates on what happened at the Connect. Welcome back. Also, as far as introducing yourself, we may have some new folks around. Microphone right there. And just, who you are, your role, updates.
Yeah, there's a lot of you when you're up here. Good morning, my name is Eileen Lupert. My day gig is that I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Spokane County Library District. I've been doing that for almost a year, and I love doing it. One of the things I get to do is work on the Connect, and this was, I believe, my 7th Connect. So I'm here to, how many people were there? I'll bet, yeah, a lot of you were. So I'm here to brag about you to you and the data that we collected after the event.
Slide.
Yeah. There we go. So we are, if you go back to one, we are newly incorporated to some degree. The group that has been on the planning committee, most of them since the beginning of time, including Renee, beginning of time of the Connect, sorry, and Carrie and Reese have been around since the beginning. We always did this as a group of just kind of ragtag volunteers, and depended on the kindness of agencies to be our fiscal sponsor. And every couple of years, they needed to not help us anymore because it was too much work, or the responsibility of needing to get insurance for the convention center got too heavy. So we found the easiest thing to do was just go ahead and incorporate. So we are now a nonprofit. We are the Spokane Connect. We are responsible for the Homeless Connect and also for the Valley Connect. So even though it's a new name, these are all the same faces. This is the group from this year, and I think all of us have been together at least 4 years. Does that sound right, Eric? At least since we started the convention center. So new name, same faces, same event. The goal, as you probably know, for the Homeless Connect is simply to offer as many services as possible under one roof for one day to help people. That's it. It's just to serve folks. We try to start with the basics and include a hot meal and clothing and food, and then move into haircuts and pets and all sorts of other things. So I'm going to share some of the data about all of those things. We have been at the Spokane Convention Center since 2020, with the exception of 1 year that got skipped for COVID. And we are always the third week in January. This year, in 2025, we set new records across the board with attendance, with warrants, with all the things I'm about to share. And I left it up there. It was kind of facetious of me to say that the cost of the convention center also set a new record, but that was true. It is not cheap to rent that place. And they are wonderful to work with. I don't mean that as a criticism of their staff or anything. They've been great. But just like for everybody else, rent is going up, and that includes for us as well. This year we served 1,891 guests. That's a lot of people. Well done. That is a 26% increase from last year. Last year we had about 1,500. When folks come in, we ask them about their living situation, and so I thought I would go ahead and share that. About 32% are living outside. 20% in shelters, and 31% are housed. So there are folks who still are, have a roof over their head and need help. And this isn't going to surprise anyone in this group, but the percentage of living outside versus living in shelters has pretty much swapped in the last 2 years. The 32% to 20%. 2 years ago, it was about the other way around. We also had a record number breaking of volunteers, which is just so awesome. For the day itself, we asked people to come in. David Stone, our volunteer coordinator, brings them on in for different shifts. We had 175 people sign up and show up for that. And then there's the 13 of us. And this year, I also asked all the vendors to tell me how many of their own staff they brought. And I don't know why we didn't look at this sooner. It's pretty eye-opening to realize that 122 services all had more than one person there. Chaz has 22. I don't know how, a lot. So when you put all those together, it takes about 500 of us to make this happen. And many of you are in this room, so thank you. As I said, 122 services or service providers all laid out in different sections. We try to make it easy to navigate, and we even have a group of navigators that have vests on to try to hand walk people from one to another. Pets are a very, very popular one. We think it's right around 100. We didn't get a final tally from the veterinarians, but we know 88 microchips were given out and 102 vouchers for spay and neutering, and those come from Pet Savers, and they raise funds all year round to do that. So a big shout out to Pet Savers for that. That's a pretty big deal. SCC, they are so wonderful. They close their entire cosmetology department for the day, and the students come on down to the convention center. So you can see there all 28 stylists with 3 instructors. They did about 200 haircuts. And if you go to the Connect for no other reason, go and look at the haircuts. It is so touching to see these young faces that are all excited to give the haircuts, and just the difference in attitude and vibe and how people feel once they stand with a fresh haircut. Breast Intentions is another great service. They fit people for bras, and not only do they fit them to make sure that they are in the right size, but they give 2 free bras and a washing bag to every single person. This year they fit 101 people. Last year I think it was 60-something, so that's a really big deal and a very valuable service. Warren Squash, also record-breaking, 94. I think that was 15 more than last year. Not only did they quash all those warrants, but I believe they dismissed another 4 or 5 cases on top of that. And that's something that is so staff-intensive. They need to have the judges, the prosecutors, the public defenders, and the client all show up. So that takes a lot of bodies to make happen, and is very cool, very exciting. And they were so busy this year. I don't even think they got to eat. So next year we have to remember to feed them. Health appointments, Chaz saw 46 people, and I don't know what the breakdown was between medical and dental, but that was a big number. The range vaccine folks came in, 45 vaccines were given. The regional health district did 13 STI and Hep C tests and got all of them right into a medical plan of some kind. And Providence ENT, they started with us last year. This was a new number for them as well. They do hearing tests. They go to a quiet place and do hearing tests. They did 28 of those. They did another 18 exams, and they also gave out 100 pair of earplugs. ID restoration, I don't have to tell y'all that that's a really big deal, really important, and stays very, very popular. That is a partnership between the Regional Health District, the Department of Licensing, and DSHS. And DSHS gives out the $5 vouchers and helps people get their IDs and driver's license restored, and they did 115 of them this year. Point in time count, we are always in alignment with a point in time count for our event, the 3rd week in January. Oftentimes we're the last day of the count. This year we were the first, so we knew that it was going to be a big number of folks that had not been counted yet. So we worked with the city, with Ariel and John Clapp, and they also brought in a partnership from Whitworth students so that we had extra people right on site since we knew it would be a big number, and that seemed to work very well. Hot meals. I wish we'd known what eggs cost when we picked eggs. But we do want to serve a meal that is unique and is appreciated, is delicious, and we want everyone to eat together. We like the idea of breaking bread with our guests, so we encourage our volunteers, our vendors, everybody to sit down and eat together. This year we did scrambled eggs and sausage. The salmon was a big hit while it was there. We served 2,200 meals, and thank you for those that bought pastries. We had our pastry vendor fall through at the last minute, and Harry said, hey, could you all bring some donuts? And you all did, so thank you, that was really cool. A couple other just quick ones, 25 phones were activated, that was very popular, 27 showers, 200 books were given out by the Spokane Public Schools Heart folks, 44 replacement EBT cards, almost 450 doses of Narcan were given out between the Poison Center and Spokane Regional Health, 250 energy conservation kits, 6 pallets of food, and 4 pallets of clothing. Yeah, it's a lot. Well, to also make up for my snide comment about the convention center, I want to make sure that we thank our sponsors. We know sponsors had to cut back this year, in some cases could not contribute, but you all still stepped up, and we could not do this without you. We are a group of volunteers, and we depend completely on our sponsors. So thank you for that. That's a really big deal. And last, I wanted to end with this quote. I sent out the survey to all the vendors, and this year I asked, what does the Spokane Homeless Connect mean to our community? And got teary reading them. Like, it was very touching to hear and see the words dignity and respect and support and community building. But this one touched me, and I think says a lot about our event. One service provider said, I've attended this event since I was experiencing homelessness. I attended my first one in Seattle and later in Spokane when I moved back. This event gave me resources, dignity, and tools to use in my recovery. I'm so blessed to now have the opportunity to connect with others and share important life-saving resources. And that's part of what this is about, is we are there to help people, and maybe it's enough help to propel them on a whole new trajectory, or maybe it's just enough help to get through the day, but that help makes a difference, and when they can turn around and then help others, it's pretty amazing. So I'm so proud to be a part of this work. We've got other folks here that are on the planning committee. There's Renee and Eric. I don't know if Sherry or anybody else is here. There's the contact information for Carrie, who is our chairperson. Mine's up there, and Reese, my vendor BFF. We're the ones that are trying to figure out where to put your table and trying to find a table when you forget to register. And there's our website. Oh, t-shirts, that's the other thing. If you purchased a t-shirt but did not get it yet, Renee has them here. So see her in the purple sweater. She's got 3 or 4 of them that didn't get picked up. So thank you. Thank you all for making this such an amazing event.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and volunteers. Man, what an awesome event. You can say, yeah. Yes. Agency sponsors. Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Lastly, we are done for the day. So we will thank you all for your time again. It is 10:27. So I will give you 3 minutes back of your life. Enjoy it and have an awesome February. Thank you all.